Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Immigration Fridays. I'm your host, Prashanti Vedi, and we're here again to navigate the ever evolving maze of US immigration. What are we discussing this week? We will discuss about how to bring your parents to the US. So, there are a couple of ways of bringing your parents to the US. It depends on what your status is and how long you want to bring them for. If you are a US citizen, then you can file a green card for them. And if you wish to bring them permanently, that's the best way to do it. So let's look into this aspect first, how to bring your parents to the US and get them a green card. First, we have to determine the eligibility. It's important to note that you, as a petitioner, as the sponsor, you have to be a US citizen and you have to be at least 21 years or older. You're not eligible to petition for your parents if you're younger than 21 or if you're not a US citizen but maybe you're a permanent resident. Permanent residents can only petition for their spouses and for their children, unmarried children, not for their parents. So please keep that in mind. In addition, you will need to demonstrate that there is a qualifying relationship between you and your parents. That is, you have to show a birth certificate which shows your parents' names in the birth certificate as your mother and father. So that's one document which will show relationship. You will also need to provide that you have the financial means to support them. So you'll have to fill out an affidavit of support and you have to have enough finances to show that you're able to support them based on the size of your family. So going into what supporting documents are needed. As I said, in order to show the relationship, you'll have to submit a birth certificate. Also, you'll have to submit a certificate of naturalization or your passport copy to show you're a US citizen. And you'll also have to submit an affidavit of support, as I was just saying, to show that you have the ability to financially sponsor your parents. What is the next step? Once you determine that you are eligible and you have all the documents, you have to submit an I-130 petition. And this petition has to be submitted along with the I-864, which is the affidavit of support. So in this affidavit of support, you're showing that you're able to financially support your parents, and in order to, in addition with the affidavit of support, in addition to the affidavit of support, you also have to submit your tax return and maybe an employment letter and pay stubs to show that you have financial viability. The next step is either filing for adjustment of status if your parents are in the US already, maybe on a visitor's visa, or filing for consular processing if they're outside the country. Let's first take up adjustment of status if they're in the country. If they're in the country, you can file a 485, Form 485 to adjust their status. And when you're filing the 485, you will need, of course, to submit documentation such as passport, proof of their status in the country, that is their I-94, the approved or pending I-130. You could also submit an I-130 and 485 together if they're in the country. So you could do that as well. You'd need their address history from the last 5 years. So this is basically what's in the forms. You'd also perhaps need a marriage certificate between your parents if you're submitting for both your parents at the same time. If, on the other hand, your parents are outside the country, you'll have to file consular processing. In order to do this, you'll have to first submit documentations and fill out a form on the NVC website. That's the National Visa Center. Once NVC approves your petition and looks at your petition to make sure that it is complete, the NVC then sends it to the consulate. The consulate will then schedule a visa interview, and you will attend that visa interview. And if you're granted an approval, then you will be given a sealed visa packet. So you have to take that sealed visa packet and you have to go to CBP, you have to enter into the US, and at CBP or at the Customs and Border Protection, the officer of Customs and Border Protection will then process your visa packet and you will get a green card in the mail. Now, a few questions that people generally ask. Will my parents be eligible for US citizenship? Yes. Once they get a green card, after 5 years, they're eligible to become US citizens. How old do I have to be to sponsor my parents? As I said, you have to be at least 21 years or older to sponsor your parents. How long will the process take? It takes about 12 to 18 months for the 485 to get approved. And if you're filing an I-130 and 485 together, 12 to 18 months. If you're outside the country, If your parents are outside the country, then it could take about 8 to 10 months for the I-130 to get approved, and maybe a few years, 1 to 2 years actually, for consular processing to get approved, because there is a backlog at the consulate. Now, what are the advantages, disadvantages to bringing your parents as permanent residents? There are tons of advantages. They get to live and work here permanently. They get to travel since they have green cards now. They may get Medicare. They may be, if they're over 65 years of age, so you don't have to worry about their health insurance. The disadvantages is if your parents are not ready to stay here, and if they're using it more as a travel visa, then don't go for the green card, because they have to live here in order to maintain their green card. Otherwise, what's going to happen is every time they leave and try to come back to the country, especially if they have spent a lot of time outside the country, they will be questioned at the port of entry. So you don't want that. So if they're not ready to stay here permanently, then file a visitor's visa. Which brings us to our visitor's visa segment. So if you're not interested in filing a visitor's visa, a permanent residence for your parents, or maybe you're a non-immigrant or a permanent resident yourself and you cannot file a green card for your parents, what is the other option of bringing your parents here? You can file a visitor's visa. So first, of course, you have to determine the eligibility for visitor's visa. You have to fill out the appropriate forms, which is the DS-160, get a visa appointment for an interview. You as the sponsor, if you're their child, you can fill out an affidavit of support and send them an invitation letter and send that to your parents so they can submit it along with their visa application. The main visa eligibility criteria for a visitor's visa is to show that they do not intend to abandon their home country. That is, they don't intend to immigrate to the US. So the questions asked at the visa interview will be questions related to why do they want to come, what are their travel plans, and also with reference to ties that they have to their home country. So this, in a nutshell, is ways and means of getting your parents to the US. And with this, it's a wrap for Immigration Fridays this week. Immigration laws and processes can be very complex, as you know. So if you need any legal help, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can call me 212-354-1010, or you can send us an email, prashanti@readyesq.com. See you again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.